Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Drive Pink Dialogue. It is episode number 119, and we are still buzzing about that Inter Miami LAFC game on Wednesday night. And so we decided, let's spend a couple hours talking about it now. It is a beautiful day to be a Heron because the Herons are going to the semifinals of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Now, if you listened to the post-game instant reaction that we did, you may have heard that Soar is taking a small sabbatical from the Drive Pink Dialogue for the next couple weeks. And so I have gone out and found the absolute best guest host I could find to fill Soar's shoes for the next couple weeks and continue to make this a dialogue and not a monologue. So please, everyone, thank you for bearing with us without Soar, and please welcome my guest host for the evening, Mr. Marc Gonzalez. How are you feeling today, my man?
I mean, you summarized it perfectly. I'm still buzzing about Wednesday night. I still have adrenaline running through me. Yeah, I didn't play. We just watched the game, but I appreciate you for bringing me on.
Yeah, no, listen, I have always appreciated the way you talk and think about the game. I think you do it very well. And so when me and Sor were realizing that we were going to have to find someone to fill his shoes, you were the first person I wanted to talk to for these game recaps where we like to get into a little bit more detail because, as I said, I do appreciate the way you see the game and can talk about it with some real confidence and understanding. So I appreciate you joining. You're doing us a huge and tremendous favor, and I am so glad and excited to talk about a really fun game with you over the next 90 minutes. Before we get into it, let's talk about some of the things going around Inter Miami's world. There has been quite a lot of buzz over the last week, some of it very big and exciting, others more small and just worthy of noting. But let's start with Baltasar Rodríguez, who was at last Wednesday night's game. He got his work permit the day before. He came to South Florida. He was on the sidelines for that game. He had his first training session over the last 48 hours, and he is now officially part of the team. He gets the number 11, and he should be ready to go for Sunday's game at Chicago. How are you feeling about Baltasar Rodríguez officially being ready to go? And Sora and I have talked about him quite a lot on this podcast, but I want to get your thoughts on what are you expecting from this player now that he's finally here?
Yeah, it seems like it's been so long that the work permit has been in the works that he finally gets it done. I think this is a player that will really help out in the midfield and then in wide spaces. Has the ability to play as a 10 or underneath Suárez or whoever the striker is, can play as an Allende out wide. This may give Gramaski a run for his money in playing time. And we'll see how that plays in. Let's see if he gets any game time into Sunday. I expect that he may get a 30-minute cameo in that game. I don't think he'll start. I think it'll be a Kremaski start in that game, and then maybe he's brought into the team. I'm really excited to see what he brings. He's a young player, youthfulness, energetic, something that this team is thriving on. When we have Segovia on the field, Bright on the field, Allende, a little bit older, but the youth movement for Inter Miami has produced so much. I'm excited to see how he fits in.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that they worked so hard to make sure they got this player, and they did. They spent months trying to get this deal over the line, all the way back to middle of January before they sold Facundo Farias. They finally get it done, and you would think they would be doing all of that to make sure they got a guy that they really wanted. But if you look at the starting 11, you don't see an obvious place for him to fit in. Today, Allende feels like a really solid option on that right side, Telasco Segovia on the left. Obviously, he's not going to take Lionel Messi out of the number 10 role. So I am curious what his actual role on this team is going to be. But of course, if they went all out of their way to make this happen, they clearly believe in his talent. But I'm curious to see exactly how he fits in, especially for Javier Mascherano, who doesn't like to rotate a ton.
Yeah, I agree. I think our starting 11 is pretty much set. He will start in absence of injury, or if there is rotation, as Mascherano, he hasn't really done so, but there may be a match where he gives Suárez a day off and Obando starts, and Tade Allende gets a rest and he slots into that role. It'll be a plug and play, I think, with Baltasar starting off. And if he really makes a big impact, it can set some guys back in the depth chart depending on where he fits in.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how he eventually fits into this team. But I'm really just excited to see what he's got because we've been
Yeah.
hearing and thinking about this player for really about almost 3 months now. So I'm excited to finally get him in the doors. Let's talk about Lionel Messi because I think the biggest news is that he's on the verge of signing a 1-year contract extension. We heard a lot about this in the winter, but it's finally seemingly about to happen. For those that were paying close attention, the MLS announced yesterday that they weren't going to be changing the calendar in 2026. So that would mean it wouldn't affect Lionel Messi for the next year and a half. And so they were finally able to put that behind them. They have clarity on the schedule, which means signing a 1-year extension becomes easy because you know what exactly you're going to be. This is about to get over the line, reported by David Ornstein, who's one of the best footballing journalists. Huge news for Inter Miami. And I think this means the project that we have now is going to continue for at least another year. Not a huge surprise, but it's good to see that pen's about to hit paper.
I think this was always the plan, given that the 2026 it's a World Cup year, and it's the year that we're supposed to open Miami Freedom Park. I think that was the plan all along to get Messi that 1 year into that new stadium, run this project as you said through next year with the same players, and really build that cohesion with the team. Because once Messi leaves, who's going to stay? What young players are going to be there? What's going to be of the back line or of the forwards? So getting him that one extra year and finally putting pen to paper seems like a relief for all parties.
Yeah, I've always paid closest attention to and been nervous about the way a season could end with Messi and the contract could run out. I
Mhm.
remember his last 6 months at PSG. It was being reported after the World Cup that he was ready to sign an extension with them. And then it felt like over the last 6 months of the contract, like relationships fell apart and it became more about Mbappe and less about the team. And then they crashed out of the UEFA Champions League and vibes around PSG were bad. And all of a sudden they weren't even under consideration anymore. When it was reported a couple months earlier that he was really considering signing an extension with PSG. So for me, I always felt that it was important to make sure that the very last few months of a contract are incredibly successful. And Miami fans, I think, should know that well because of what happened with LeBron James. His last year in Miami, they don't win the title, and it's bad vibes for a team that had and should have won multiple championships or more championships. And all of a sudden, he has an opportunity to leave, and he takes it. He goes to Cleveland, etc. I was always sort of worried about that with Messi, where he would decide if the timing and the vibes and the club didn't feel right as he approached the end of the contract, that was the only real way we would lose him to another team. And so making that not a part of the equation, I think, is huge. I do think now that he's going to take this into 2026 and potentially, I think 2027, there might be a player option involved in this. So it would be his decision, but his decision if he wanted to continue playing, it would be at Inter Miami. It's just good to have it done, sealed, and now you can make sure you maximize what you get with this roster under the Lionel Messi era of Inter Miami.
Yeah, I agree. Ending on a sour note, as you said, with not a sour note, but a losing note, a losing feeling with LeBron. And I'm a big basketball guy. I was heartbroken when he left and he went back to Cleveland. But ending on a high this season with Messi and diminishing all the rumors of him going back to Barca and him wanting to go back to Barca and just putting that to bed and putting that to rest and the team can finally focus. The team can just he can focus on staying with Inter Miami this season, finishing strong, going for the trophies that he spoke about, and then starting with the same cast and crew next year, really carrying that momentum. I think will do a lot for the club.
Yeah, and also for me personally, I now know, well, we'll wait till the official papers get signed, but I think knowing that you're going to have this core through next season, or at least most of this core through next season, I think allows you to have a little bit of breathing room on the urgency of what you want to accomplish right now. And Messi is going to be, of course, the linchpin to that. So I think good news all around that's on the verge of happening. Love it for Inter Miami. Love it for Inter Miami fans. I think it's huge for the front office and for the club as a whole. So all positive things. It's been a great experience having him, and I'm glad it's going to continue. Speaking of Lionel Messi and pushing this club forward, there's been some rumors this week, and Sora and I talked about it a little bit in our last podcast, but Kevin De Bruyne rumors happened earlier this week. I think there's been some Ángel Di María stuff over the last couple hours and maybe even into yesterday. This is, I think, something that the club is going to try and do this summer, whether it's De Bruyne, whether it's Ángel Di María. I think as part of trying to convince Messi to stay and trying to make him happy as we enter the final couple months of his contract, they're going to want to continue surrounding him with talent that he has good quality and a good relationship with. And if it's his friends, that would be even better, like a guy like Di María. How are you feeling about, well, let's start with Kevin De Bruyne, because that was the big rumor earlier this week. How would you feel about adding a Kevin De Bruyne?
He's one of the best midfielders of his generation. What he's done in Man City is phenomenal. And him joining up with this team, I just don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know the logistics. I'm not the guy with the money and the TAM spots and the GAM money and all that stuff. But as a fit, he is to play two tens, two creative midfielders. One is Messi, one's De Bruyne. I mean, the service for our forwards, for Luis Suárez, whoever's playing on the left, on the right, is going to be fantastic. And it'll just bring another element to this team and truly unstoppable at this point, even though it seems like that already.
You wouldn't be worried about the defense in the midfield?
That's the part that scares me. Whose spot is he going to take? He's not taking Busquets, so that leaves the one guy that is a token in that midfield. That's Yannick Bright. And Yannick, we know how Yannick Bright, how important he is into this squad.
Yeah, I actually don't even see. This is my whole thing with this move is I actually think you have to either take out Telasco Segovia or Tadeo Allende, and that would mean putting Kevin De Bruyne on the left or putting him centrally and moving Messi to the right. I don't think you can take another midfielder off to put another 10 on and still have any sort of defensive balance. So while obviously Kevin De Bruyne's a better player than Telasco Segovia or Tadeo Allende, you really are messing with the balance of this team in a way that I don't think you necessarily do with an Ángel Di María. Now, let me be clear. I understand this is an absolutely spoiled conversation to be having as an Inter Miami fan. If you could add Kevin De Bruyne, you just do it because he's Kevin De Bruyne. But I do think there are players out there that are a better fit, and one of those is Ángel Di María. Apparently, Jorge Mendes, his agent, made a quick trip to Miami over the last couple of days to gauge what a deal to Inter Miami might look like for Di María. He has, I think, spurned Inter Miami twice over the last 2 summers to stick with Benfica. But ultimately, if that's another possibility this summer, I think that would be another really interesting one. I know he's talked about going back to Argentina, but I think the Inter Miami rumors have continued to be there. Even some people in the chat have mentioned it. What do you think?
This is another one, we've heard so many names, but I think this is the one that sticks out the most, other than Neymar, of course, just because of his relationship with Messi, and his fit into the team is much better than De Bruyne. He fits easier on the left or the right, and he can play off Messi. He is another player that can take on defenders with his dribbling ability, can whip in balls, create shots for himself. So realistically speaking, his fit is better than De Bruyne. And I think if it's a logistical and a logical plan for Miami to go out and get him, I think they'll pull all the strings to do so.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what they do this summer, but I absolutely think this club is going to try and add one more big name player because they want to have all the confidence, all the energy, all the excitement, both at the end of this season, but heading into next year when they open the new stadium. Yeah. Personal preference, you would take Di María?
Yes, because I love the balance in the midfield. I think needs to stay the same, and Di María is an easier fit for me.
Okay, last thing I wanted to mention before we get into this LAFC game that was, again, I must admit, one of the most fun experiences I've had as an Inter Miami fan is to just let you guys know that the FC Dallas game has been changed, rescheduled. It was scheduled for April 26th, which was a Saturday. It's now been rescheduled to the 27th, which is a Sunday, because Inter Miami has 2 new games on the schedule, one on Thursday the 24th at Vancouver, and then Wednesday the 30th in Fort Lauderdale, because Inter Miami is playing in the CONCACAF Champions Cup semifinal. And that all happened because Inter Miami beat LAFC 3-1 on Wednesday night. Let me know if you're ready to start talking about this one.
I've been ready since Wednesday night, since the final whistle. I've been ready.
Okay, let me get a sip of water. We'll do the rundown and we'll get into it. But again, this is really why I wanted to bring you on. The Kevin De Bruyne stuff is just for fun. Okay, the only one that matters, Inter Miami versus LAFC in South Florida with a trip to the C3 semifinals on the line. Herons start down 1-0 from the road leg and almost immediately find themselves in a similar position when Aaron Long gives LAFC an early lead, up 2-0 on aggregate with the away goal advantage. And that's how we settle in. Inter Miami needing 3 goals to advance, LAFC needing 1 to put it away for good. And Denny Bouanga is determined to be the one to force the Herons to fly north. Opportunities in the 22nd, 23rd, 50th, 73rd minute all go without hitting the back of the net. And in the meantime, the South Florida Giants are putting on the pressure. The first breakthrough comes in the 35th minute when Messi on the ball, pushed to Suárez, then back to Messi, 2 touches and a bang into the top corner to give Inter Miami life. And then comes the second, 60th minute. It's the Prince of Pembroke Pines that lofts a ball centrally. Redondo plays the dummy. Lloris falls for it, and Noah Allen gets the goal as it falls softly past the goal line. And suddenly, the next goal feels like it's for everything. And bang, 67th minute, Messi puts it across to Suárez, who just deflects it enough to put it in the back of the net. But a controversial offside calls it off, and the Herons are still searching. And it's starting to feel like LAFC has the magic. But the sports gods don't lie. Questionable offsides, red cards that never were, questionable suspension of Sergio Busquets. Finally, the gods had enough, and they reminded us, ball don't lie. Off the hand of Marlon in the box, and we get Hugo Lloris face-to-face with Lionel Messi. You don't bet against the GOAT, as Messi puts it in the back of the net in the 84th minute, but LAFC had just enough time to try and get the winner. Denny Bouanga certainly went for it with a pair of golden opportunities, but Oscar Ustari called game. Herons win through to the semifinals. See you in Canada. What an unbelievable game.
What a read-through.
What was your initial reaction after the game? Like, what was your energy level at, your excitement level at? I mean, we go live, and it was I didn't even know what to think about. I was so excited. I smiled through the entire 45-minute instant reaction. It was incredible, but I want to hear from you. What were you thinking in those moments?
I was on the edge of my seat watching the game, holding on for dear life in those last 9 minutes after a grueling first 15. And then those next 75, I was glued to my seat. We were just unloading chances and balls into the box, and I was like, there's a goal coming here. There's a goal here. We're going to get a goal. It was elation for me after that game. I was smiling.
Yeah, you knew we were going to do this, and so you texted me as we were going for the reaction, like, can we just do this now? And of course, we wanted to prepare and have a chance to rewatch the game and take notes and everything. But it was just unbelievable. It was the kind of thing that you didn't want to stop talking about. I didn't go to bed that night until well after 1 a.m. I watched the Vancouver and Pumas game. That was a pretty good ending if anyone saw it. But the real one was this one. It felt awful after 10 minutes. It felt almost exactly like Monterrey last year.
Mm-hmm.
It felt so similar to Atlanta last year. The games at Inter Miami just couldn't ever get their mojo going. And it felt exactly like that in the first 10 minutes. Obviously, Aaron Long puts LAFC up 1-0, 2-0 on aggregate, gives them the away goal, and it felt insurmountable. And even after that, for the next 5 to 10 minutes, it wasn't like Inter Miami was dominating. They just were starting to get into the flow of the game, just to start to put some pressure on. But I thought from that 20th minute on, at least until they scored the third goal in the 84th minute, it was just all pressure all the time. I thought it was it was exactly what they needed to do. I think they finished with 21 shots. No XG for CONCACAF Champions Cup games. But again, they felt like they were doing what they needed to do for that 65-minute period, and it paid off.
Yeah, I agree. When Aaron Long sunk that shot in the box, I was like, not him. It cannot be him who sends us out. But like you said, from that 20th, 24th, 25th minute on, it was the pressure that we were putting on was, it felt like we were starting to approach the door to start knocking on it with little shots trickling in, crosses trickling in, some chaos for LAFC to deal with, runs being made in behind by Allende. Allende was being a nuisance in the air. Telasco Segovia was playing more centrally and really helping Messi create and knock on the door. And eventually what came of it was goals for Inter Miami, and those 75 minutes were just pure chaotic and pure bliss for Inter Miami fans.
Yeah. Let's get to that first goal. Let's eat the vegetables first, because we have plenty of dessert after. It's the 9th minute, comes off a corner. Ustari has all the space in the world, and he punches it away. It just gets recycled back into the box. Yannick Bright keeps both Nathan Ordaz and Aaron Long onside. Nathan Ordaz just with a quick touch, because he's not facing the right direction, to Aaron Long, who slams it home. I watched that and I thought, man, why didn't Ustari just catch the ball? Because he was completely unsurrounded. There was no one around him. There was no pressure. It was an easy opportunity for him to catch the ball. And Yannick Bright obviously deserves blame too, because he was the one that didn't get forward enough to keep everyone. He was the one keeping everyone on side. But what did about that moment? Where would you be the most upset?
I think it starts with Ustari, just because I'm very, I'm equally biased towards Ustari or Drake Kander, and Drake Kander when his positioning on the near post isn't as good. When Ustari didn't catch that ball when he had no one around him, I was, what is he thinking? And if you're gonna punch it, at least get it further than just the edge of the 18-yard box. Because Marky Delgado, all he had to do was put his foot on it, and he recycled it back in. And it was Yannick Bright versus two people, because Yannick Bright was late to clear his lines, and Aaron Long just rifles it past Ustadi. And I really watched it back one more time, and I was to make sure that there was no one around him, and surely enough, there was no one around in the area. And I just don't know what I think he was trying to punch it out to get a quick restart into Messi. I think he was on the bottom right and go in transition, but in that that moment when they just had a corner kick before that, catch the ball, let your offense reset, let your backline reset, and we go from there.
Yeah, I think when you look back at it, he's going to be like, I thought I was under more pressure. I imagined it, and I need to catch that ball next time.
Yeah.
I think that's the only excuse. And then I don't think we need to say anything about Yannick Bright. He knows he needs to get up faster. So do that, and I think you solve this. But again, it felt like it was not going to be our night. It wasn't terrible decision-making. It was in terms of who was on the field. They didn't play the wrong formation. They didn't play the wrong tactics. Yeah. There was just one silly mistake from two of the guys that have been your most consistent players this season, in Oscar Ustari, the veteran, and Yannick Bright, the sensational youngster. To have that mistake cost you a goal and force you now to score 3 goals because they had the away goals advantage. It really was a really bad situation. And I also thought it culminated 8 to 9 minutes of really poor play from Inter Miami. It actually looked in that moment like LAFC was more likely to score. They came out right away to try and establish some possession and a presence in this game. And obviously they did that right away. Yeah. And so it was more than just that one goal. It was Inter Miami being unable to control the game from the first minute. And it obviously results in a goal for LAFC. So tough way to start. There was a moment in the 31st minute that I thought we should touch on for a second. There's a free kick at the edge of the box, or a couple yards out, but within Messi's range. And all of a sudden, the ball's in the back of the net from the way we saw it on TV. Yeah. Turns out he didn't really wait for the restart. He thought he had an opportunity, went for it. The referee gave him the goal at first, but then someone in his head said, by the way, you just gave a yellow card. You have to bring that back. He said, you're right. I did just give a yellow card. I forgot about that. Let me bring it back. Right call, in your opinion?
Yes. With any showing of a caution, Referee there's a ceremonial restart, so you have to wait for the referee's whistle. He did not blow the whistle for the restart. Messi took it, scored. It was called back. I think that was the correct call there.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's not just the blowing of the whistle, but the ceremonial insurance that everyone is ready to go.
Yeah,
That is a big part of it. So I agree. Right decision. Finally, though, and again, going back to just feels like it's not our day. When we finally feel like something good's happening, gets taken away. But the breakthrough does come in the 35th minute. Suarez puts it in. It kind of bounces off Marc Delgado, but it lands right in the path of Messi and ends up being better for Inter Miami because it was a little too hard for Messi to take down, I think. But it's perfect. That was, I think, one of Messi's greatest goals at Inter Miami to open the scoring in the 35th minute.
no, yeah, that two touch into the box and crossbody shot leaves Lloris with no chance at it. But it just goes to show the brilliance of Messi knowing not to take that first time or the touch is too heavy. Take an extra touch, get the defense off balance, and rifle it past the keeper. It's just no one else thinks like him. I'm convinced. He sees the game in a different level.
Yeah, and when you know you can put in the top right corner whenever you
Yeah.
want, that helps you be willing to take that extra step.
Hmm.
Um, at halftime, though, I'll be honest with you, I was still not feeling great about this game. I was afraid to let my hopes get up, if I'm being totally honest with you. I knew it was a huge hurdle, and the last 10 minutes were really impressive. And there was another chance in stoppage time for Redondo to make it 2-1. And I thought, man, if they could get that second goal before halftime, we'd be feeling good. And so I was still throughout halftime afraid to really let my hopes get up. But then they come out in the second half and they just go right back at it. And it was complete Inter Miami putting pressure on, putting pressure on, putting pressure on. They had to defend a couple transition pieces or opportunities for LAFC, but they did that pretty well. And then they would get right back on the ball, crowd in, continue to create chances, crosses into the box, shots from deep, trying to make something happen. They get the second one in the 60th minute. There's actually a lot of things going on that play. Marc
Yeah.
Delgado gets shoved, and he's trying to get a foul. And so he takes himself out of the play by lying on the floor. Ultimately, Telasco Segovia takes a shot. It gets rebounded out to Noah Allen, who kind of chips it over the top to a running Federico Redondo. Redondo doesn't actually touch it, and so Hugo Lloris's his whole positioning is off because he's expecting a touch from Redondo, and it just kind of goes merrily into the back of the net. Ryan Hollingshead tries to clear it, but it's a little too late. At this point, I was like, okay, this is neck and neck right now. I
Yeah.
feel pretty good
Yeah.
about this. It's
Yeah.
getting exciting.
I mean, there was a lot on that play. From Marc
Yeah.
Delgado being down to Messi colliding with another midfielder defender. Suarez gets knocked down in the box. The ball's recycled out. Messi passes across to Noah Allen, who finds himself at the edge of the 18-yard box, given the freedom to move up, clips a ball over the defense. Beautiful ball by him. Redondo whiffs. I mean, if he got a hair on it, he'd be lucky. Um, Lloris can't do anything about it because he is very, he's anticipating a touch from Redondo. It never comes. It bounces right under his arm. And Hollingshead is chasing it, and it's kicked into the back of his goal. But I think Noah Allen was credited for the goal. I don't know if they took it back. But at that point, I said, wow, hold on for dear life. The game on.
Yeah. Next moment in the 67th minute, and some people have mentioned in the chat, and I did the extra work on this one. Luis Suarez, or rather Lionel Messi, has the ball probably about 30 yards out. He puts a cross into Luis Suarez. Suarez taps it with his head and into the back of the net past Hugo Lloris. And it felt like at this moment for 10 seconds that Inter Miami had done it. They had made the comeback happen and that they were going to control their destiny for the rest of this game. And all of a sudden, the line judge on the opposite side has his flag raised. It looked very questionable. They put this image on the screen when they showed the replay from VAR, and it looks like they put the lines on the wrong LAFC player.
That's what it seems like. When I saw this, I don't draw lines at home. I don't have this VAR in my house, nothing. I'm looking at Palencia, who on the bottom right seems to be like he's keeping Suarez on. And I'm like, they drew the lines on the center back, not the other defender. I was like, what is going on?
Yeah. So this image was going viral. And so I decided, you know what? I'm just going to draw the lines. And this is what I came up with. I used the same angles that they had for the Suarez and Marlon lines. And I think Luis Suarez is onside by about an inch or two. So it's very close. It's very close. You can't even really see the red line from here because the yellow line is just sort of covering it. But
Yeah.
I think that Inter Miami should have gotten a goal on this one. I think they drew it on the wrong. Well, they clearly drew it on the wrong player, but I do think Luis Suarez is onside by an inch or two. Very close. You can understand why the on-field referee got it wrong, but I think Inter Miami should have won the game right here, honestly.
I'm with you 100%. Yeah, looking at it, Palencia is, to me, is clearly keeping him on, and they drew it on Marlon, the wrong defender. I don't know what happened in the VAR room with CONCACAF. Have no idea.
Yeah, so people in the chat, Ash and Mistiano, they call it exactly right. We got CONCACAF on this moment, and if this had been what cost us this series, it would have been unforgivable. It's actually easy for me to say whatever, we advanced, so who cares? But if we hadn't have advanced, I would have been saying, go back and give us a goal for this very reason, because this is obviously and clearly a goal. Again, it is very close, but it's a goal, in my opinion. And
Agreed.
so Inter Miami should have had that 3-goal lead or 3-1 lead at that point. Okay.
Agreed.
Moving forward, you finally get the handball on Marlon in the 82nd minute. Messi steps up. I don't know. Did you feel good about that?
I mean, it was the 2022 World Cup all over again. Messi versus Lloris went to the same side. He scores. And the thing, I was confident. I know Lloris does not have a good penalty save percentage, so I was fairly confident Messi was gonna slot this one home.
Yeah, I was a little bit less confident, and it's not because of Lionel Messi, who I wouldn't have no more confidence. There's no player I would have more confidence in than Lionel Messi, but I always get nervous on a penalty when you absolutely have to have it, because any mistake can cost you not just the game, but in this situation, the entire tournament. But of course, he puts in the back of the net because he's Lionel Messi. Inter Miami escapes with a 3-1 victory. We advance. There's a couple other moments later on in that game that LAFC really put the pressure on, but I'm sure we will come back to that when we get on to the awards. But as Cynical2 mentioned, I think one of the coolest moments in that game that I didn't see until someone posted the video after on Twitter is Chelo Wigan at the halfway line on his knees facing the other direction, just waiting for the sound. You can't even watch. It is that's a really fun moment.
It was a cool moment.
Endearing, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about LAFC for a few minutes, because I had a lot of respect for them at the end of that game. And then I rewatched it today and I lost a lot of respect for them because they were, I think, very frustrating in the way that they play. They would go down very easily over the first 85 minutes of the game and cry foul and pretend like they had died. And the referee, thankfully, wasn't giving it to them incredibly often, but it was still, they were trying to waste the game away from the very first, especially after they scored that goal in the 8th minute, 9th minute. And then all of a sudden they're down, they need a goal, and it was spikes everywhere. The hardest tackles we've seen the entire season. Yep. It was such a hypocritical twist from them. It made me lose a lot of respect for them. But let's talk about LAFC more generally. They came out to play early on. They get the goal. They were tough to break down over the course of 180 minutes. It was very few mistakes over the course of 2 games. They got 2 goals that, listen, I think we got 2 mistakes from a keeper and 1 from Yannick Bright that led to 2 goals, and they took advantage of it. But they made this hard for us, for sure.
They did. They really came out that first game with a clear plan of attacking us off the transition. It worked to their power. They really threw us off defensively with how they set up in a low block and how they put so many numbers behind the ball. And that transitioned into the second game. They came out with more firepower than us to start the game. We wanted to try to dominate the ball, but we didn't. And Dennis Bouanga really made us clench our teeth, really hold on because he was just going at it. And Nathan Ordaz, even though I don't, he should have been sent off that first game. He's a nice player. He's got some quality to him, and I think he'll be a good player going forward for them this season.
Yeah, I agree. They have a real striker problem, and he might just be the solution for them. I want to talk about Denny Bouanga for a minute because I did think he was the best player on their team and also the one that I think cost them this series in the end because he created so many opportunities for himself. And in this game, and I noticed it especially in the rewatch, it felt like he made the wrong decision on the last in the last choice. Every single time he got the ball, either he passed it when he should have shot when he passed it. There was a moment early on, and I just want to get the right moment. It's the 22nd minute. Denny Bouanga, he makes Maxi Falcone fall in the box. He had already beaten Chelo Wigan. You guys may remember because it's when Maxi Falcone fell. And he passes it to Timmy Tillman, who takes an extra touch and he misses the opportunity. And so about a minute later, Oscar Ustari turns the ball over and Denny Bouanga says, I'm going to take this one myself. And he shoots and he can't put it on target. He sails it across the face of goal. And I think in that 60 seconds, he lost all of his confidence on when he should pass and when he should shoot. And for the opportunities when he did shoot, he probably should have gone far post when he went near post and vice versa. It felt like he couldn't make the right decision in the final third, despite creating chance after chance. I think Inter Miami did get bailed out a little bit by his poor decision-making in the final inside the box, really. He had 4, 5, 6 opportunities to end this series, end this game, and he made the wrong decision on almost every single one of them. If I was an LAFC fan, I'd be incredibly frustrated. Bouanga is an incredible player, super talented. He's their best player by far on a team with multiple World Cup winners. But in this game, I think Inter Miami lucked out that he was sort of wrong on every decision.
I agree. A lot of people like to write off a good player just because their team is mid-table or they're not doing so well. But let's remember, Denny Bouanga is a Golden Boot winner, prolific scorer, very good going at players 1v1, has the pace, has the technical ability, the dribbling ability, really keeps the ball close to his feet and makes a lot of these defenders miss, as he did with Inter Miami yesterday. And we did luck out. Like as you said, he could have gone near post on some, very far post on the others, and that in between, that indecisiveness of either shooting or passing, I think got to him, and eventually was the downfall of LAFC not being able to get another goal.
Yeah, and he was the danger man. I know Ryan Hollingshead had a couple headers off of corners, but really it felt like it was going to be Denny Bouanga, and he created so much and just couldn't finish. I think that was the difference, really, and I think Inter Miami got lucked out. Despite all that they did offensively and how fun this game was, I think they got a little lucky on that one. Bouanga's not had the best start to the season, but as you mentioned, I think he has the most goals in the MLS since the beginning of 2022. So, I mean, he's a baller.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get back to Miami because we won't see LAFC again. Hopefully, it's not something we have to worry about. It's possible in the Leagues Cup. It's possible in the MLS Cup final, but I really do think there's a low chance we see that team again this year. And by the time we do, I think there'll be a different squad, potentially with a different coach. I thought going down early actually was a blessing in disguise. And I only say that in retrospect, knowing we end up winning. But the first 10 minutes of this game, it felt like LAFC said, we're going to put our mark on this game. And Inter Miami didn't actually respond particularly well, I don't think. They let LAFC have the ball. They didn't put enough pressure on. And LAFC did create a couple corners. They did create a couple opportunities. And ultimately, they get the goal. And from there, LAFC, I thought, sat back, tried to be very defensive and thought, all we have to do is not give up 3 goals and we'll be fine. But for Inter Miami, I also thought it sparked, we have to go get 3 goals. We have to be all out attack this entire game. And if that means leaving us a little bit exposed and making sure our center backs are responsible for the transition game and not giving them quite as much help, we have to do that because we have to get 3 goals. I actually thought that's how they should have started the game. And this game may have gone may have been easier if they had, but ultimately they got there very quickly because they had no choice by the 10th minute. If that moment for Aaron Long and LAFC comes in minute 36, I really do think this could be an entirely different game because it would take much longer for Inter Miami to really put the pressure on. I actually think it changed the dynamics of this game in a way that suited the way Inter Miami wanted to play, suited the way their game plan understood how this game was going to go, and it allowed them to really dominate possession, dominate the ball, put up all these shots, and ultimately create the goals they needed to win this game.
Yeah, I agree. Scoring that goal in the 10th minute, like you said, was a blessing in disguise for Miami because at that point it was, you know, we have to go all out attack right now. We cannot, they're going to sit back and defend, but we have to attack them. We have to pin them back, recycle balls into the box, get our attack going. If it's going to be a two-man center back, last line of defense, it's going to be that with Cello and Alba on the wings, overlapping runs, getting balls into the box. Redondo and Bright playing as a 6-8 combo. Bright, really in front of the our defenders, and it was Miami needed to get it and go now. If it like you said, if it comes in the 30th, 35th, 40th minute, it becomes a tougher game to chase. The time is shrinking, and it's shrinking quickly. With 75 minutes, it seems like you have more than enough time to find three. And with the way Miami attacked,
I disagree. I don't think any team can feel like we will just score 3 goals unless we really go out for it. And that's what forced Inter Miami to say, we're going to push our fullbacks higher. We're going to get our midfield involved in the offense. We can't try and win this game 1-0 or squeak out with a 2-0 lead. We know we have to put up 3+ goals, which means, and if it's more than 3, you really have to get going. It means you have to put the pressure on from basically that moment on. And ultimately, it took them 75 minutes to get that third goal. So I actually do think this was a catalyst for changing how they were approaching the game offensively, and one that ended up working out for them.
I mean, you said it best. It was a spark plug. It was the catalyst that ignited the fire for them to attack because they needed to do it. They could not go down. I mean, everyone knew that if they go down 1-0 at home at any point, the comeback was almost insurmountable. It was going to be very tough. But it lit a little fire on them, and they just ended up with 21 shots. 3 of them were in, and we're advancing to the semifinals.
And by doing that, by going for it and pushing the fullbacks up, something they didn't really do in the last game, Gonzalo Lujan was very conservative, and even Jordi Alba, by his standards, were conservative. Those guys, well, not Lujan, but Cello and Jordi Alba playing high up, Yannick Bright and Federico Redondo being a part of the offense or slitting back and being a part of a back three that could protect transition. It really did leave our defensive transition exposed. And it was really cool to see our transition defense stand up to it, because this has been a problem for Inter Miami over the last several years, really since the Messi era started. They have been really poor in defensive transition. And in this moment against a team that loves to hit in transition, that is very good and has high quality players that can do it well, Inter Miami's defense stood up when they needed them to.
Yeah. Last year, our transition defense was not good. Our positioning in that situation was not good. The angles that we would take on certain players, on players with the ball, was not good. And in this game, it was the opposite. The angles to the ball, the positioning, us on their backs, making sure that we delay for other defenders to arrive, not letting them get the cleanest shots off, even though they had a couple in the final minutes. But with Falcon and Noah Allen, they did a very, very good job in holding steady back there.
How'd you feel about Javier Mascherano's game?
I thought he managed a very good game. This was his best managed game of the season. I'm going to say it's the best managed game of Inter Miami's last 2 years. He
certainly in the big moments. Certainly in
the big moments, in the big games, this was as good as it gets. He was able to find the right subs, the right tactical adjustments, as moving Allende a little more centrally, bringing on Kremaski, Telasco Segovia finding space centrally, Redondo playing as a 6 when Yannick Bright came out. It was just perfectly managed by Mascherano in the way that Inter Miami wanted to play. They forced us to play a little narrow at times. They forced us to play wide. We opened up the game, sending Messi a little wider, playing on that right side, whipping in balls. So I think Mascherano had a clear game plan after we went down that one goal, and he used all his cards, and I think he did a fantastic job.
Yeah, just to get into a little bit more specifics, the team last week, they ran into this low block that LAFC has, and they didn't have an answer for it.
No.
I think the thing that made me so proud and excited about the job that the coaching staff did, and give the players credit for being a part of the planning and then ultimately executing on the field, they had different plans and different ways prepared to beat this team. And I think the best example of that was Jordi Alba, who last week really got shut out from the game because Sergi Palencia, the right back for LAFC, decided, I'm not going to let him get past me at any moment. I'm going to play very disciplined. I don't need to worry about going forward. That's not my game. And so Jordi Alba, this game, he starts out trying to do the same thing, but it's not working. You see him cutting centrally to try and get himself involved in the game, and I thought was big in turning the tide in that 20 to 35th minute because of his play centrally. In the second half, ultimately you see the Noah Allen and Jordi Alba interchange, allowing Noah Allen to step forward into space that was uncovered. Jordi Alba stepping back to make sure it's covered. Those types of different ways to beat the same low block, I thought was exactly what this team needed to come into this game with. They saw what LAFC had last week. Their normal method of beating it wasn't working. And so they came in with multiple different ideas on how to break through this very tight and congested low block. And it worked in a really special way. You mentioned Tadeo Allende playing centrally. You talked about Telasco Segovia coming in instead of just making a like-for-like sub with Yannick Bright and Benjamin Kramaski. He put Kramaski out where he could have a bigger impact, moved another guy centrally, and so you kept the same balance, kept the same structure of the team, but you were able to maneuver pieces so that you were still getting an effective offense that could continue to create chances without a loss of quality. I was really nervous when Yannick Bright went out with we're still not sure exactly what the injury is, and we'll probably find out in the next 24 hours, and hopefully he's good to go and it's not a problem, although I did hear he trained on the side today, so take that for what it's worth. It's just all the little tweaks. They were all nice. And the fact that he had answers was so refreshing after what we had to deal with Tata Martino last year, where when the big moments didn't go his way, he really didn't have any tweaks to correct them.
Yeah. And this, I think, goes back to me saying to you in the beginning of the season, in the preview show for the entire season, when you had asked me one word to describe Javier Mascherano, and I said tactician. If he can find the little gains within the game, the right subs, the right formations, the right play styles, play patterns to get this team over the top, I think this game sums it up perfectly.
Yeah, and Upcode in the chat says that we really need to open up the attack and take chances. We did it in a way that we haven't done all season. To me, the biggest change, and I think this was right, and we saw a little bit of this on Sunday against Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
Against that low block, you're not going to create the same type of ultra high quality opportunities that this team really is good at creating with Messi and Suárez. You have to take some more lower chance options or lower quality opportunities. And they were willing to do that consistently. But by doing that, you kind of pull guys out here, you pull guys out here, you pull it wider to defend these little moments. And that was something they didn't do last week. They were just trying to play for the perfect opportunity. And they're so good at creating it for themselves and then finishing with it that normally works. But in this game, they really did have to beat them with quantity over high quality and then let their own natural talent turn the sort of low opportunity chances into goals. That Messi chance is not something that many players in the league can finish. Obviously, the Noah Allen one was a bit of luck, but again, we're talking about 20 plus shots. That's what it's going to take in order to beat a team that does this type of defense. Score 3 goals past them. This is a really good LAFC team, and when they're playing their best 11, they do not give up a lot of goals. I think half their games this year have been clean sheets. So really, really impressive. And the fact that we ran into it last week and it was a buzzsaw and we couldn't break through, and that we came with a completely different game plan that worked this week, it was really just masterful, I thought.
Yeah. I'm going to pick off what you said of pulling players out pulling players wide, and that I think attributes to how many balls were whipped in from wide spaces. More than usual, I would say. Pulling a play or overlapping runs into the box and sending in crosses. I mean, Messi was sending in a lot of crosses. Chelo was getting on the end of crosses, and we had Suárez in there, Allende in there, trying to cause chaos for LAFC. And, the one that Suárez scored should have been a goal, comes off a cross. Suárez gets on the end of another cross off a corner. It really caused LAFC to change some of their defensive instruction. They had to go step to Messi to eliminate his cross. And in doing so, Messi's able to play a 1-2 with Segovia, 1-2 with Kremaski, or 1-2 with Redondo, receive the ball back. And then in one of those, he's able to find Noah Allen, who, like you said, chips it in. It passes Lloris, and we're tied 2-2. So that open play of Inter Miami, that change, and let's cause chaos for LAFC and see what can come of it, was something that was new. We really don't play those balls in as much as we did on Wednesday. We like to play very narrow. Messi cutting in 1-2 with Suárez, give and go with Alba, cut back. So a change of pace was a delight to see.
Yeah, and I also want to give them credit because it felt like they implemented some of these things on Sunday against Toronto. And at the time, it was, we were talking about how they couldn't finish and it was a 1-1 draw, and that was disappointing. But now that we've seen the whole week collectively, I think you can look back on that Toronto game and say, yeah, listen, they were trying to put shots on target from outside the box. They were trying to whip in more crosses, trying to find different ways to attack a low block. And not that that's what they saw against Toronto, but it was sort of a precursor for what was to come against LAFC, and ultimately they get the result they need in an incredibly exciting way. Anything else about this game you want to talk about before we get to awards?
No,
any other moments that stuck with you?
I mean, the ability of Yannick Bright just to track back on that Dennis Bouanga breakaway and poke the ball free just goes to show how invaluable he is to this team. He's one of those guys that's a mainstay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that just stood out to me, that it was a 3v1 or 2v1, and he chased them to the far left sideline, poked that ball out. I mean, just the guts that he has and the will to make that play and just not let us go down.
Yeah. Okay. I agree. I think, listen, this show and this audience understands how much we love Yannick Bright, and you're right. That was another moment. And the only problem with it was that he hurt himself in the process. Okay, let's get to awards because I am very curious. This is the first time I've ever done this without Sor, so I'm interested to see what you've got cooked up. I did give you the sort of rundown on how the awards are supposed to be given out, but I don't know what you're about to do with this, so I hope you brought some good ones, and I'm excited to see what you have. On this show, we give out 6 awards: a Heron of the match, a Heron that flew north, and 2 individual awards each. And because Sor went first last time and you're taking his spot, I will go first this time, and I will quickly say Lionel Messi is the man of the match. It's not even really worth a conversation. He gets 2 goals, sort of a half assist. I mean, he gets an assist on Noah Allen's chip over the top. I don't even know if he wants to count that one, but ultimately 3 goal contributions. But he was just the catalyst for so much creativity, so much of our offense. And in a game where we needed to put 3 goals on the board, you could see the passion, the fire, the intensity, the enthusiasm, the hustle, the defense, the everything, the giving it all and leaving it all out on the field from your superstar, who is, the best player in the world, the World Cup winner, the Ballon d'Or, 8-time Ballon d'Or winner. And for him to be in the MLS in a CONCACAF game that isn't the UEFA Champions League, it's not the World Cup, to be putting that type of effort and energy and enthusiasm into the game, and ultimately the skill and talent that helped Inter Miami advance. To me, he's the obvious choice for man of the match.
Yeah, totally agree. There's nothing I can say about that.
Lionel Messi has now won our man of the match 6 times, and I think he's only played 8 games. So maybe that will tell you something about his season so far.
Yep.
Pretty good. Yeah, I mean, what'd you think about Messi? Without
Uh,
forcing you to say the same things over and over.
no, the best game I had seen Messi play this year was the Atlanta game, and how engaged he was in the press, and he did not want to lose that game. He 100 times it this game. The engagement, the look in his eyes, the elation of the goals, what it meant to him just meant so much to him and the team. So, and he had the best game of the season for Inter Miami. So, much deserving of this man of the Heron of the match.
Yeah, and I think so often in this league, you need your superstar to be your best player. And so it's very easy to criticize them and point the blame to them when it doesn't work and when you don't advance, you don't win. But then when it works right, you get performances like this, and it's incredible, and it makes being a fan worth being a fan. Maybe we'll talk about at the end how this game stacks up compared to other Inter Miami games of history, but just a phenomenal performance, an incredible joy to watch, and how lucky and spoiled we are to be able to get this on a consistent basis. Okay, our second award and the debut award for Marc Gonzalez on the Drive Pink Dialogue is the Heron That Flew North. For those that haven't watched the show before, the Heron That Flew North is given to the player who is doing the wrong thing, because if you are a Florida Heron and you're flying north for the winter or any time at all, really, you're doing the wrong thing. And that is sort of the essence of this award. So tell me, Mark, who gets the Heron That Flew North for this game?
For this game, I'm going to go with Cello Wiegand. Had a very rough game. Caught out of position a couple times. Really could not stand up to Dennis Bouanga. It was just one of those games that to forget about for him, honestly. Still curious as to why he started in a magnitude of this game, but I went with Cello for this one.
So I will say it is tough to give a Heron That Flew North in a game like this where it's so fun. And so you look at the goals, and maybe you would want to blame Ustari, but then he was so great down the stretch that they cancel each other out. And and then same thing with Yannick Bright. And so it feels harsh to give this to Cello because he played a very good game by his own standards. And yes, Denny Bouanga got around him, but he also played very physical, and I thought he guarded him much more tightly than we saw from Gonzalo Lujan a week ago. So on the one hand, it does feel harsh, but again, you start looking at who played, and everyone felt like they had a good game, or they scored a goal, or they were hugely impactful in this awesome moment. So I understand where this comes from. Probably not where I would have gone, but that is okay. That is your prerogative. Tell me why you felt Cello was deserving.
I mean, I have nothing personal against Cello. I just think, like you said, in a game of this magnitude where the stars and the players really showed up to play, and it was, I just felt he was a step behind. He did have a couple physical battles with Bouanga and things like that, but I just it was hard to pick anyone. It was nothing against him, like a little hard to pick anyone else. Like you said, I could have picked Ustari, but I think everything else at the end kind of made up for that.
Yeah, Cello's just coming back from injury, and so and again, I thought he played well. I think if you look at Cello from the understanding that he's a backup right back, you feel great about it. And when you see him from the standard of he's the starting right back, you feel maybe a little less good about it. Now, obviously, we talked about how Inter Miami did what they needed to do to win. Maybe he did get lucky a couple times that Denny Bouanga couldn't put a shot on target, or at least put it past Ustari. So I think there was certainly the potential for Cello to have had actually a really rough game based on what Denny Bouanga would have done after beating him. But ultimately, I think this was a fine performance from Cello by his own standards. It doesn't change my opinion that Ian Frey is clearly the better right back. I don't know. I'm really pretty surprised that he didn't start this game. But ultimately, Cello doesn't cost us. So I'm going to give Cello my stamp of approval for this game and hope we get Ian Frey on the weekend.
Very fair.
Okay, first award, and curious to see what your ability to guess here is, because again, first time that you've ever been a part of this.
Yeah.
I am giving out the When Two Becomes One award.
When Two Becomes One award. I'm thinking something along the lines when two guys form together to make one. Um, wow. Or something in the midfield with Bright and Redondo. I don't know where I'm going. I'm gonna go with Redondo on this one. I may be very far off.
Where did you tell me? Tell me what you're thinking is that got you
Where
to
the
Federico Redondo.
two midfielders of Bright and Redondo, one gets off and it's just Redondo at the end holding on for dear life as a six.
I can see where you're going with this. Not at all where I was going with
Yeah,
this.
I
So let me explain where I was going with this. There's a player on this team that actually plays two positions, and for the first time, we effectively saw him merge his skills from one position to and apply them to the second position, and he had possibly the greatest game of his professional career. Having said that, do you want to guess again?
just Telasco Segovia.
It's okay.
I'm
No one's great their first time. It goes to Noah Allen, who is obviously a left back by training and has
true.
blossomed into a phenomenal center back. And not only is he a great center back, not only is he great in transition, but he also has that one tool he developed in the decades of learning fullback that he can put a cross in. I counted 3 really nice crosses from him in this game. One cross field to Messi, and I believe 18th minute, something like that. And then one to get the goal that ultimately, I guess, was more of a shot than a goal in the history books. And then he had another one to Tadeo Allende later on. He was merging that defensive quickness and understanding and ability to occupy space with the skill to get into the final third, walk into space, and then put a good ball in. And ultimately, he gets rewarded with a goal that without, we would be going home right now. Noah Allen, I thought, was phenomenal in this game and deserves to be talked about for more than just, that. But I thought it was incredibly cool to see him merge these two skills, these two talents that he has worked hard to develop into one performance that helped Inter Miami go to the semifinals of the CONCACAF Champions Cup.
Yeah, great award. Great person to give it to. When Noah Allen started off last year as a wide center back and the 3-back, I didn't know where he would land on the depth chart going into the season. But he put his head down, used his tools as a left back, merged them in, as you so eloquently said, into a center back role, and has taken this starting role with command and not looking back on it.
Yeah. Again, huge performance from him. We talked about the defensive transitions. As good as Maxi Falcone was, even he got burned one time by Denny Bouanga. That didn't happen to Noah Allen. Good in possession, gets a goal. I mean, really just a phenomenal night on a huge, huge stage like this. I thought he was great in the first leg, too. I thought he's been great all season. It's just awesome to watch him grow up. And without distracting us too much, I think it's such a fundamental explanation of how players are supposed to develop normally. We throw guys out there so young, and if they don't succeed, we give them so much flack. But a player like Noah Allen, who just started to get minutes in 2022 and then built into it in 2023 and then 2024 at the very end of the season, he really shows he's got something into 2025 where he feels like he's undroppable in the biggest games. That is what a normal development curve is supposed to look like. He is absolutely on track to be everything people thought he was going to be when he was a U.S. Youth International and everything, and all of those highly prized and thought of things that he was supposed to do. This is the timeline he was supposed to be on. He's on it. He's becoming a star. It is so great to see, and so I wanted to give him an award because he really is merging all of his talents into one. Okay. Mark, first ever individual award. Let's make it a good one. What do you got for me?
I'm going to give out the Expecto Petronum Award.
Okay, so this is Harry Potter. This is, I'm guessing, I respect people that love Harry Potter. I'm a casual Harry Potter. I mean, I've seen the movies, but I'm not a diehard. I'm guessing this is the one that you shoot at. That's like a light that you shoot at people. Am I right about that?
You shoot something at people. There's a light, but it casts
It like
something when
scares
you
off the darkness, right? Something that's
You're on the right
okay,
track,
I'm on the
bro.
right track.
You're on
Okay,
the right.
okay.
You're on the right
I just
track.
want to use that
Yeah,
as
you're on
a
the right
reference
track.
point. This is Jordi Alba because he helps illuminate the darkness that LAFC's back line and cage really was. And he unlocked it from the first game when he was locked up, found a way out of it in the second game, and he guided Inter Miami through. You don't even have to tell me. I know I'm right.
No, you're not. You are not right, my friend. This goes to Oscar Ustari, and the reason being, Expecto Petronum is a spell which casts a Patronus. The Patronus acts like an entity protecting against the bad people being LAFC's attack. And it felt like in the last 10 minutes, Mascherano waved his magical wand, casted the spell, and Oscar Ustari was there to protect us, to save us from going down and being eliminated in the CCC.
Oscar Ustari, I thought had a really bad first half. I give him the most blame for that first goal. And then when you think back to last week, I blame him for the goal they scored in LA for not being able to get to what should be an easy, comfortable save. He had another moment, and I just want to get the right minute for this. 23rd minute, he throws the ball to the other team, and Hollingshead intercepts it, and then it turns to a chance for Denny Bouanga that, again, could have ended the entire series for Inter Miami. Two huge mistakes, and he gets away with one of them. But then what he did in the final 15 minutes was game saving, and I specifically didn't want to talk about these moments because I wanted to wait till we got to the award section because he was going to be my next award if you didn't give it to him. But 88th minute, Hollingshead heads a ball centrally to Denny Bouanga, and Bouanga sort of gets a little flick with his head and puts it on target. And it's the save of his Inter Miami career for Ustari. He just gets a few fingertips on it to push it 4 inches wide. There's some incredible replays of that, but the best save of his Inter Miami career. And then on the ensuing corner, it goes right to Ryan Hollingshead's head, who puts it on target, and it's another quick reaction from Ustari to save that one. 91st minute, that's the moment where Redondo gets the ball stolen from him, and he puts Timmy Tillman, who steals the ball, puts it forward to Bouanga. Maxi Falcone cannot catch up to him, so it's a one-on-one with Bouanga and Oscar Ustari. And again, Bouanga goes near post. Ustari's not fooled. He's there for the save, and Inter Miami gets away with it. But that was 3 great opportunities for LAFC that would have won the game or won the series for them and sent them through on away goals. And he was there for all 3 of them. He was, over the last 10 minutes of the game, the man of the match, no doubt about it. Phenomenal final 10 minutes from him. And again, he's a huge reason that we are moving on.
Yep. He was, I felt like, as I said, Mascherano waved that wand, casted the spell, and Ustari stood there defending, protecting us.
Just for fun's sake, he finishes with 8 saves and 7 saves from inside the box. So a really, really impressive game from him. And again, that's sometimes you need performances like that if you want to win tournaments like this. He stepped up and played like a champion in the championship moments. He stepped up and played like a winner in the winning moments. So huge shout out to him for what was an incredible finish to this game that helped us see it through. Okay, my next award, because you stole my next one, I'm giving the Honey Badger Award.
The Honey Badger Award. Oh boy. When you say Honey Badger, I instantly just think of Tyrann Mathieu, who was an NFL player who went to LSU, had a mohawk that was blonde. Right? You're going somewhere with a Honey Badger. You might have stumped me on this one. I guess Segovia for the first. I like Segovia with this one. Am I even on the right track? Where am I here? How cold?
You're totally on the right track, man. Come on,
go.
give me a confident answer.
You mean Telasco Segovia as your Honey Badger Award?
Not even close. It goes to Maxi Falcone. Maxi Falcone was equally good in this game. And for the first time, all of the extra things about him the tackling people, the hair, the sort of aura that he runs around with, it got me in an emotional way. The reason I give the Honey Badger Award, because they are known for being fearless, aggressive, and no concern for their own health. And by the way, as you mentioned, Tyrann Mathieu, some weird haircuts or interesting haircuts, unique haircuts. So that also fixed Maxi Falcone. I thought he was great in this game, but toughness personified. He tackled someone during a fight, which was fun, that, especially because he didn't get in trouble. But he has been such a huge part of this team, such a huge part of the development of this defense, to finally have a veteran who is good enough to help you in the big moments so that you're not relying on the kids. Something that Nico Freire was supposed to be but couldn't be. David Martinez was supposed to be but couldn't be. Sir Christoph was supposed to be but couldn't be. To a lesser extent, Kamal Miller. And before that, there's a number of other center backs in Inter Miami's history that were supposed to be the guy that could help set them up in games like this, and they never came through. And finally, Maxi Falcone, who isn't supposed to be a superstar, comes in and just settles that back line in such a nice way. And really, I felt some emotion for him on Wednesday night because of the way he was going about it. He gets the Honey Badger Award for me.
Yeah, makes total sense. I should have gone with the hair. I was on the right track with the hair. And Tyrann Mathieu, who has the best hair on the team, it's Maxi Falcone. But he just exudes confidence when he's playing on that field. He's going into tackles. He's going headfirst into low balls, heading them out, putting his body on the line, getting into fights, getting into tussles. He encapsulates everything that Gregory was when he was here, and having that that ferociousness, that bulldog, that energy in you, is needed on a team like this where you have so many superstars. You need some sort of a little bit of nasty, get down, do the dirty work.
I couldn't say it any better, man. He is. I was nervous about him because he's supposed to be the star of our defense, but we weren't spending that much money on him, and his physical traits aren't super impressive. But he's a honey badger back there, man, and I really love it. So really glad we ended up getting him. I think that ended up being an incredible signing. I think there's a chance it ends up being our best signing of the year, but one of many really great options so far. Okay, close us out with a good one, Mark. Who gets your second and final award?
My second award, the final one of the show, I'm going to go ahead and give the Spark Plug Award.
The Spark Plug Award. Okay, well, this typically involves someone that comes in off the bench and makes a difference. I think Kramaski would be the only option there, but it could also be someone who comes into the lineup and makes a difference, which could be Tadeo Allende. So it's got to be either Allende or Kramaski. Because you mentioned Kramaski earlier, I'm going to go with Benjamin Kramaski.
You are 100% correct, sir.
Hey, this isn't my first rodeo, man.
I know this.
Talk to me about Ben.
I think
the Golden Boy.
Yeah, this was one of his best games of the season, I feel like, and he didn't even start. He came on as a sub, and just there was an energy shift, a shift in the offensive approach, how we played. That's when Allende really tucked into the middle and opened up even more of the game for Messi. And then when you have Kramaski, who can play the ball in, has the technical ability to play 1-2s, can get his first touch, I think, was a shot with his left foot that got saved, that got blocked. So there was an energy shift that we needed in that second half, to carry that momentum, keep going forward, and it just spark plugged the entire team.
Yeah, I was nervous when Yannick Bright came off because I thought, they were creating some things in transition, and he has really been our transition killer for our defense. And so I was nervous when he came off, and I thought Kramaski was the only real choice. Sergio Busquets suspended, and there really isn't another player that we've seen this year in that double pivot other than Redondo, Bright, and Busquets. And so when Bright's not available, I figured it was probably going to be Kramaski, but Javier Mascherano actually puts him wide and moves both Segovia and Tadeo Allende centrally, and Messi as well, to create a similar structure without disrupting everything. and it worked really well. Kramaski down that right side where he can just use his athleticism to be a part of the offense, to be a part of the midfield, to be pesky defensively, to help with the press, to try and win balls in the midfield. All of those things he was able to just do without fear or needing to dominate the ball or control the game. He could just be a part of what Inter Miami was doing. And I thought he did it really well. I'm not going to say it was his best game of the year because there was some moments early in the season where him and Frey had some really nice combination play, but absolutely came in and was a positive. And so really, really happy with Kramaski's performance as well.
Yeah. This is why he deserved my award. You said it all.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what goes on with Kramaski because Baltasar Rodríguez is coming in, and while people have said that he's going to take Kramaski's minutes, I'm not like I think I'm curious to see how high up the food chain Baltasar goes because is he going to disrupt Telasco Segovia's minutes? Is he going to disrupt Tadeo Allende's minutes, Fafa Pico's minutes? Like I don't necessarily think it's just Kramaski that's going to lose out on this Baltasar thing, but at the same time, we've seen guys like Noah Allen, Ian Frey, Yannick Bright get challenged with really good, talented players coming in and them step their game up and take advantage of having this day-to-day competition that forces them to be better. And we've seen them blossom into stars. So I think this could be a great thing for Kramaski. Clearly, Javier Mascherano believes in him and wants him to continue growing and developing. And so I'm really happy with where Ben Ha's at right now. Yeah. Anyone else in this game you want to talk about? Luis Suárez, I thought, had a disappointing first 30, 35 minutes. It felt like more of the same of what we've seen over the last couple of games. But I thought he had a really nice second half. Should have gotten a goal in the 67th minute. It gets called off for what we think was a pretty poor offside decision. And we showed you the lines earlier if you want to go back and look at it. But I don't know. How are you feeling about Suárez overall on the course of the season?
It's just been a consistent slowness to start the season. He very indecisive in the final third. Really struggles with his first touch in that area. Can't really get on the power behind the ball. It's like he's stuck in mud, to say the least. Hopefully he can get out of the funk and produce the goals that we know he can. But it's just some sort of he's not. He's moving the same as he was before. I don't see any difference. He's just the production in the final third hasn't started.
So you're not a believer either. Sora is real down on Luis Suárez, but
he's
been down with Suárez since day one.
I said Suárez is going to get 20 goals this season on our show. But he had a slow start last season. He can pick it up. All he needs is to see one go in, or maybe even multiple, like he did against Orlando last season, and it started clicking. I still believe in him.
Yeah, I think he could use a game off. Like it's not about his long-term potential, but I think even this Sunday, I'd like to see Alan Obando come on or start the game and see Suárez come off the bench for 30 minutes because he started every single game. Almost maybe since the beginning of preseason. He may have gotten one preseason game where he came off the bench, but he's basically been locked into the starting lineup since game one, and that's a lot for him. Tadeo Allende comes back after missing a couple games, hurt himself in that Atlanta game on the turf, finally comes back, didn't have a huge impact. He may have been where I went for Heron that flew north just because whether in a game where so many guys had a positive impact, didn't quite feel like he was able to have it. Yannick Bright did Yannick Bright things. We talked about his mistake in the 8th minute to let the first goal go in, but other than that, he did what he does. Federico Redondo, I thought he had a good game, man.
I agree. He was in line he was one that I chose for an award. I didn't get to him, but he had to me, I saw that he had 14 final third passes into the final third, the most out of anyone on our team. He was really advancing the ball when he needed to, sitting back when he needed to. And the thing that's always been the knock on him is he doesn't know if he's a 6 or an 8 or what he's playing as. And when he plays with the Busquets,
does he not know or do the coaches not know?
Maybe it's both. I don't know, because when he plays with Busquets, he's asked to play as a 6, and he's not. This is more in the coaching. He's not a 6. He's more of an 8. He's able to advance the ball, found himself in attacking positions, and at the end of the first half, was able to hold his own. He had that one mistake that almost cost us in the 90th minute. Luckily it didn't, but he had a well-rounded game in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. You're right. He got the ball stolen from him in the late, and it led to the chance, but Ustari saves it, so it's easy to forgive him. He also had a shot on goal at the end of the first half that I guess it wasn't an on goal. A perfect lane opened up for him, and he puts it 7 yards over the top of the net.
He's,
But
he's leaning back on that. Yeah.
yeah, he was. Yeah, and so it actually could have been a disastrous game from him because those could have been the moments that cost everything. But because they don't, I thought on a minute-to-minute basis he was really good. Telasco Segovia I thought was much improved from what we saw last week. He was finding open spaces. There was like a 10-minute period where Segovia, Suárez, and Messi were just interchanging
It was one
in
touching.
tiki-taka fashion. It was really nice, really fun to watch. And then Jordi Alba I also thought was solid. And like I said earlier, he found ways to find the game that he wasn't always doing last week. Aviles, Lujan, and Pico come on late, didn't do a ton. So other than fight people, but
no yellow card for Aviles. Three straight games with no yellow card. I mean, he was.
Listen, this time he may have deserved it. He probably deserved it.
He absolutely clattered two-footed someone in the middle of the pitch, and I was like, wow. So
yeah. He definitely came. He definitely tried to get a yellow card in this game. He felt uncomfortable with the lack of yellow cards, but yeah, he ended up being enough to help us see the game out. Actually, he played in the midfield too, which I thought was interesting. Okay, let's move forward a little bit. I mean, phenomenal game, but it only means that Inter Miami goes to the semifinal. As we found out later that night, it will be against Vancouver. They had a dramatic goal in stoppage time that sent them through over Pumas down in Mexico. So they now advanced, having beaten two Liga MX clubs. Pumas not quite as impressive as Monterrey, which they beat in the last round. But they are coming in with confidence. They are first in the Western Conference as we speak, if I'm not mistaken. They've had a great start to the season. They have rotated a lot and still been able to get results. They have a new coach that people are raving about and certainly has done a lot with this team because they have a lot of the same players as they've had over the last couple of years with Vanni Sartini. Jesper Sorensen is the new coach. First thoughts on Vancouver?
It's going to be a tough one. They're playing some really good football. Is Brian White their striker? I can't. What's his?
He didn't start for them last night, or rather Wednesday night.
He's their main.
Guy. Yeah.
And Ryan Gold off the wing, I believe, is one of their other guys who are.
Yeah, but he's injured right now.
Okay, but
yeah, they did that without Ryan Gold, who's their best player, really.
Yeah, I've watched some of that game against Pumas. They have some pace to their team. But other than that, I mean, I need to do a lot more research. They're extremely confident right now, sitting first in the West. They've been up there I want to say the whole season, up 1 and 2 interchanging, I believe. But they've been a strong side to start. It'll be a very good test for Miami. Not a lot of overchanging players that we saw last year at Vancouver. So different style of play, and Miami's going to have to adapt.
I'm going to say something that I hope doesn't come off blasphemous, but I actually think they're very similar to Inter Miami in the way they play. They want to be expansive. When they have opportunities, they want to hit quickly in transition, and they have the quality to do that. I've been very impressed with their midfield. It is athletic. They have some wingers with real pace that can be a problem for opposing defenders. But they don't have the same type of elite talent that Inter Miami has. So while I think they are a better team than LAFC, I actually think this is a better matchup for Inter Miami. It's the CONCACAF Champions Cup semifinal. It's not going to be, and it shouldn't be. It's not supposed to be easy. But I am excited about this matchup. I think the Pumas game would have made me a little bit nervous just because you've gone down to Mexico and you don't know about the pitch, you don't know about the hotel, you don't know about the travel situation. And so to go to Vancouver, a place we were just in last season, and we got a 2-1 victory without our superstars, it makes me feel that Inter Miami is a great chance to do what they need to do in this series to go to the final. And for those that are wondering, if they win 2 games, they have they will host the final which is a one-legged final in South Florida. And depending on, if they get a win and a draw, they're still probably going to go through. It depends on what happens in the other leg. But currently they are the leaders in terms of which team will host the final. So they have an absolutely excellent chance to do that. This tournament has absolutely shaped up for Inter Miami as well as it could have, but you got to complete it. As Kobe Bryant said, and by the way, this is the difference between me and Kobe Bryant. 10 minutes after he won, he said, job's not done. It took me 48 hours to calm down so that I could let my excitement settle a little bit.
And say job's not done.
But the truth is, job's not done. We'll be back in 2 weeks We'll be back in 2 weeks in Vancouver to get the next leg going. But this team has what it needs.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, quick thoughts on Chicago. Sunday afternoon, Inter Miami plays in Soldier Field in Chicago, and going to keep their MLS season going.
Yeah, going up against Greg Berhalter's side. I hate saying the name, but they had a 3-game win streak. They're a better road team than a home team. Hugo Kuipers is their striker. I believe he's tied for third in the MLS Golden Boot race right now. They brought in Jonathan Bamba from Lille, tied for second, I believe, with 4 assists. Really pacey winger, can cut in on his right foot. Hugo Kuipers can go get it in the air. And then they have U.S. men's internationals in the midfield with Kellen Acosta and Brian Gutierrez. Brian Gutierrez will play as a 10. As an attacking mid, Kellen Acosta will likely sit back. We got to take the game to them. Chicago has a surprisingly good offense, ranked second with 14 goals this season. So it's not going to be I don't think it's going to be a low scoring. I mean, people will expect a low scoring affair because we'll probably hold them, but this team can score with the best of them.
No, yeah, I think it's more likely there's going to be goals in this game.
Yeah.
Upcode says, please rotate heavily. We have not really seen Javier Mascherano rotate the big names, but I think if there was ever a time to give a little bit of a rest, it would be after the big win on Wednesday night. Please give Alan Obando a start up top. I think Jordi Alba's fine. I think Busquets will obviously start. I think you can even start Messi, but Suárez has not scored from the run of play in 8 games. While he's had some positive moments, let me be clear. It was 8 games ago was the last time he scored from the run of play. So it's been 7 games without a goal from the run of play. But anyways, I just think he needs half a game off. Let Alan Obando start. I'd be very excited to see Baltasar Rodríguez start. I want to see him get a real run out, even if it's for 45 or 60 minutes. But he hasn't played in a while, so he's probably more likely to come off the bench. But exciting to see that nonetheless. And this team that has given us such a great moment this week has another chance to lift our spirits and hopefully not crush them on Sunday. I'm excited. We will obviously do the pregame, but Mark, before we close this out, I just want to thank you again for doing this. It's been a lot of fun. Your awards were satisfactory. Your guessing skills not quite as good, but I'm sure you'll improve with practice. But please tell everyone where they can find you if they want more of you, and you'll obviously be back on the Dry Pink Dialogue more over the coming weeks, and as a recurring guest, hopefully over time. But in the meantime, tell everyone where they can find more of you.
Yeah, guys. First of all, thank you for having me. But you can find me Wednesday nights on the Kendall Sports Network on YouTube. We go live on the False Nine podcast. We break down everything Inter Miami, tactically, look back at the game with graphic, analytical perspective, and some casual banter in there as well. So stop on by 7:30s. Wednesday nights, False Nine podcast.
Awesome. Well, guys, check it out. And Mark will be back soon, I'm sure, because Sora's out and we need someone to fill in for him. And Mark is the best we could think of. So not saying that to compliment because we don't have the biggest imaginations, but you can take that as you please. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. It was an incredible game, an incredible performance, and we just had to talk about it more. So that's exactly what we did. But in the meantime, or I guess rather, we'll be back for the pregame show, Dry Pink Dialogue, 1 hour before kickoff on Sunday. We will see you guys then. And in the meantime, have a wonderful night. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you guys next time. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Since our first viewer, sharing this with you all has been the very best part. So from the beginning until the end, thank you for being a part of this and have a wonderful day.